Hello and welcome back to week 12 of my renovation vlog. I can't believe it's already April 1st. No jokes. This is not a spoofy video that I'm making here. This is just my Monday update for week 12 of my renovation vlog. And I am making continuous progress toward my end of May construction start date, which is crazy town right around the corner. If we haven't met yet, my name is Karen McMillan and I am planning and designing my own renovation, my own home renovation. And for the first time, I'm actually being the construction project manager as well, instead of hiring a general contractor. So that is what I'm doing here for the first time, which is very, very exciting. And I put out an update every single Monday to my YouTube channel and on my website. So stick around for those if you're interested in hearing more as I progress through. And I share lots of tips and tricks and everything that I'm learning from one very cost-conscious homeowner to another. So stick around. A little update for what's been happening here. The biggest thing I'm still waiting for is my permit drawings. So those have been with the architect now for a couple of weeks. I was hoping that they would have come in at the end of last week, but they didn't. I just got an email saying they're in the final stages. They're running them through with the engineer. So that is definitely in progress, and I'm hoping to get them back today or tomorrow or sometime early this week, which would be very exciting because then I can do a final review of those, make sure everything is good to go, and then those can get submitted to the city so I can have a permit, which will be really exciting because we need that in order to start building. It's also a crucial piece because I can't get any estimates on any of the construction without those drawings, which makes total sense, right? It's the one thing that I always say is that you can't get someone to quote a project without specifications and documentation and information. So I can't get a structural guy to quote me on how much, the beams are going to cost and how much the labor is going to be until he knows what the specifications of those beams are. So I can't move forward with any of the build planning until I get those permit drawings ready to go. Now, the permit doesn't have to be approved. They just have to be engineer stamped and architect approved, all that stuff. And that way they have something to work with. Changes are fine. You can always make changes to plans, but you just need that baseline first. So once I get those drawings back, then I can go to all the structural teams and get quotes on the structural piece. And that's the first element in the whole process, apart from demolition, which is a whole other thing that I will tell you about. Actually, I'm just going to jump into my story and tell you about that right now. My plan was always to just do the demolition ourselves because I figure it's pretty basic labor and it's just going to take time and effort and everything. So I've always wanted to do that myself. But my husband has been very concerned about us doing it all and when are we going to find the time. We do have 2 little kids and full-time jobs and stuff, so I'm not really sure about that either. But I was like, well, we got to save the money. And he said, well, how much could it be? And I said, okay, fine, let's get a quote and we'll just see what it's like. So we had a team come in here and they gave us a quote and it was $12,000. $12,000 for demo. This is not complicated stuff. This isn't putting stuff back together. This isn't stuff with a delicate touch. We're just saying rip everything out. It's not as though they have to, be careful and leave this up here and not touch this. It's like, no, it's a gut job. Just get it all done. And $12,000. And only $1,000 of that was for the actual removal and disposal of the junk, of the flooring and the drywall and everything. Only $1,000 out of that. So $11,000 was just labor. Brainless labor. And I was blown away by that. And obviously I do not have that in a budget. And even if I did, I don't know if I could justify spending $12,000 on something that I could do myself with zero brain power. So not that these guys would not be good and do a great job. And I know that they would be really fast and much faster than we will be. And they will be much more efficient and they will clean up at the end of each day. And it will be I know that they would do a great job. So I'm not necessarily saying it's not good value for money, especially if you don't have the time, but I want to make the time because I don't have $12,000 in my budget for demolition. Let's just put it that way. And I just want to point out just how expensive everything is these days and how your budget, which you think is going to be a lot, actually gets eaten up very, very quickly with all these little things that you just didn't think would be $12,000. So just a heads up on that one. But anyway, I digress. Back to my story. So waiting for the permit plans. And just one thing I want to talk about is that it's really difficult sometimes when you're in this part of the process to explain to other people what you're doing. So for instance, I had dinner with my family last night and they were asking lots of questions about the process and where we're at and everything. And, a lot of their questions were things like, well, you're sure you're going to live in the basement during this thing? Because, you have to move all this stuff and you have to move HVAC, you have to move stairs. And what's that going to be like? And they're asking all these questions. And a lot of my answers right now are, well, I'm not sure yet. I don't know. I've got to have that conversation still with the trades for that piece. And it's very difficult for them to understand and not be concerned about the fact that they're like, but so you want to start construction in 6 to 8 weeks and you don't have answers to these things yet? I know that's awkward. And so I just want to talk about that for a second. So in this process, there are two streams of effort, right? There's the planning effort, and then there's the actual construction and build effort. And for most people, when they think about renovating, they just think about the construction piece. And so for everyone out there who's thinking, well, how are you going to start construction in 6 to 8 weeks and you haven't had all these questions answered? And it's because, well, this has all been such a fast process and I haven't finished the planning documentation yet. So the planning process isn't even done. And so I can't completely dive into the construction planning process without the very important, essential, mandatory inputs from the planning process. I'm almost there and I've got quite a few of those answers ready to go. And that's why I've been able to start making progress on this. So for instance, the layouts and everything that the architect is doing with the structural engineer, I had that all planned out weeks and weeks ago. So that was ready to go. And so I could work on that and that piece of it can be submitted. And once I get that, then that's a key input for booking the structural team, as well as having those conversations with the HVAC and electrical and plumbing guys. Because you need the structure first. The structure rules everything. It's the most important part of the puzzle. It doesn't matter about your plumbing plans if your structure is going to ruin those. The structure trumps everything because it's what's holding up your house, right? So that has to be first before you even think about anything else. Everything else works around the structure. That's just the process. So you've got to get that done first. So that part of the planning process was done a long time ago. And I've got my plans now, my SHEP plans, which I always call them. So I have structure, obviously. And then so I finished off my HVAC, electrical, and plumbing plans. And I have those all drawn out inside SketchUp, which is very exciting. And so what I'm finishing off now is the actual specifications doc that goes with it to get really, really specific about what the measurements are. Because it's not quite enough to just have a little symbol of, a power outlet above my kitchen countertop. I have to specify where exactly I want that. I won't know 100% because it depends on where the joists are, but I have to at least have a plan of where I want that to go. And so those are the kind of details that I'm listing out in my specifications document. So once I get all of that done, which I'm going to have done by next week, then I will be in a greater position. I'll have the permit drawings and I'll have my specs. So then I can go to all these other trades. I can go to the HVAC guy and the plumber and the electricians to say, here are the plans. Here's the structure. Here's my proposed solutions for all of these things. How do those two marry up? And what are your suggestions? And how much is it all going to cost? And then we'll have a plan coming together for the construction piece, right? But I can't go to these guys without documentation to say, this is what I want. This is what I'm hoping for. This is what I think about where my HVAC duct is going to go now that this wall, which had a HVAC in it, is going to be gone and it's replaced with a beam. I still have to provide answers for that. And of course, I could just go to them and say, well, you guys figure it out. But you're not going to get good results that way because they're not thinking about my best interests or what I want design-wise or where my cabinets are going. They're just going to put them somewhere that's best for them to get the job done. And that more often than not does not work for homeowners. So I'm going to them with a plan that works for me and I'm going to get them to confirm it. If that doesn't work, then we'll look at other options. But I'm going to go to them with my preferred options and say, this is where I think I'd like to hide it behind a cabinet because this is where it works for me design-wise. And here's why I think it makes sense. Because I've already done all the pre-work to say, here's where I know the ducts are running already in my house. I haven't ripped out any walls. I haven't even put a hole in, but I already know where all the ducts are running because I mapped that out way long ago. And so I can say to them, this is my hypothesis. This is where I want them to go. What do you think about that, right? And it should be either an easy yes or here's some other things that you may not have thought about, which is great. But then we're already off to the races, right? We have a first meeting and we're already finding alternative solutions versus sending them back to try and map all this stuff out on their own. So it just saves a lot of time and therefore money. So I digress. Where was I? So that's where I am in the plan. And so I'm because I'm doing the management of the whole process and the construction phase as well as the planning, I'm kind of running things in tandem, but I can't go far with the construction piece until I nail all the planning pieces. So that's where there's a bit of a delay happening, but it's okay because I'm still on track from the construction standpoint. And all of these answers are coming at the right time. Still in plenty of time to have those conversations with the relevant trades. So no worries. Don't get worried. Family, friends, watchers of this, don't worry about it. I am used to this as a project manager. Even though we always like things to be linear, we like things to be in the proper order, we like symmetry, we like to check things off our to-do lists. Sometimes it's a bit messy and chaotic and we have all these similar tracks going at the same time, but there's still progress and there's still the inputs that need to go in before you can make the next decisions, and all that's happening. So that is very exciting. Hopefully I'll have some really exciting updates by next week. Now, one thing that I haven't done yet, the biggest piece of the planning that I haven't done yet is actually just my bathroom designs. So I've done, I think I showed you last video, my kitchen designs, living room, like the whole main floor layout, and I have the layout of the upstairs with the bedrooms and bathrooms, and I've got the layouts of the bathrooms done, but I just haven't done the intricate designs, the elevations to show where there's shower niches, where there's storage, what that's going to look like, what cabinetry I want, and where are the towel racks going, where is everything happening. So that's what I'm finishing off this week as well, and that way I can start going to shop for finishes that are going to work with that design. So that's where I'm at with those. It's very exciting. I have two full bathrooms and a powder room to finish up, and that will complete all of my design effort, which is, if you are following along at all with the process and what I'm talking about within my course, Renovation Planning Academy, this is all part of module 5. So I've done all of the shop planning and stuff, which is module 4. Module 5 is all of the design work and choosing finishes, which is all very, very exciting. So that's where I'm at. These decisions will also just confirm the finality of my budget, which is great because once we know the exact finishes for flooring and everything, you have the pricing, that all goes back into the budget, and then that's where it gets really firmed up. And that way I will know, hopefully by the end of next week, have a very, very firm idea of what my final budget will be. I've had a very good estimate all the way along, and everything's been fitting within those ballparks. And now it's just every step I take, every decision that I make, I'll be watching you. No, it gets closer to a final budget, which is great. So that's what I'm working on from that. I'm not putting a ton of effort into the bedrooms up here. Apart from doing, what I did this weekend is finalize the closets. So I'm doing built-in closets with organizers and everything, because I find those are so much more useful than just a single shelf and a bar. What are you going to do with that? Not everything gets hung up. Where am I putting my socks? On the shelf that's up, 7 foot high? That's useless. Whinge. So I did the closet design, which is a really good step, and that way I know exactly where everything's going there. And apart from that, I'm just doing, as I've already done, the electrical and the lighting plans for the bedrooms, so that I know exactly where I want the lights and fans and power outlets and all that sort of stuff based on where I think beds are going to go and layout. So I've done the layout, I've done that work, but I'm not going to do elevations and 3D renders of the bedrooms because 2 of them are kids' bedrooms and whatever, they can just do what they want in there. And then for our bedroom, I'm doing very little. I mean, my standards are very low. For the past 5 years, our bedroom has been orange on the walls because that's how it was when we moved in, and we've had a single mattress on the floor with no other furniture, nothing. It's been so shabby, which it's been great for us with little kids. Never had to worry about them, coming in or rolling off our beds. Even my 3-year-old just has a mattress on the floor because we transitioned her from a crib to a mattress, and we didn't bother to buy a bed yet. And it's fine because then she falls out. She's falling off like 6 inches off the floor. No big deal, right? So anyway, my standards for bedrooms are very low. We will be putting in furniture. We will be putting in some nice built-ins. I do have a design in my head, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing the 3D renders for it because it's probably going to be a post-renovation project. I'll finish that up. I will have the plans for everything, so I know I'm not going to have to get into it and then say, oh man, I didn't think about where the heat register was. Now that's in the way, and I'm going to pre-plan where my electrical outlets are going to go so that it works exactly with it, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time. So anyway, just wanted to comment on that. And I think the last thing I wanted to tell you about is I had a fireplace guy. I think I mentioned this in the last video. I had a fireplace guy come to my house, which was really, really great. It was not a long conversation, but basically he looked around, checked out the gas supply outside to make sure that there's going to be no issues bringing it in, which there's not. He's looking at sort of the property lines and making sure we're not too close to other houses to have exhaust, all that stuff, which was great. And then the biggest thing that we talked about was just whether or not the BTUs are going to be too much for the space. So bottom line is that I want a huge fireplace. I want it to be a feature. where I live in Canada, we have short but very hot summers. And so I sort of have my big renovation has two main features in it. Well, more than that, but the sort of two in terms of climate. So one of them is I have a huge big door in the back, which is going to be fully accordion open up into a huge walkout deck and everything, which is going to be amazing so that I can really take advantage of summertime. It'll all be screened in so that we can just have a big indoor outdoor space. So I'm really excited about that. But that's for summer and it's very short. So for the rest of the year, I'm going to have this fireplace and it's going to be huge because I love fireplaces. I love the ambiance of them and I just love sitting around the fire. But my conundrum was, is it going to make the place too hot? Because this is what I see all the time, right? Here people have their thermostat because everyone has a furnace because you need it. You can't get through the winter without a furnace or some form of, heat pump or whatever. But anyway, so we have our thermostat, which is typically in most homes on the main floor. And the problem is when you have a fireplace on the main floor is that it quickly heats up the main floor and then your thermostat doesn't kick on. And so your furnace doesn't kick on. And then if you have a second floor like we do, those bedrooms, whatever's up there gets very, very cold because there's no heat going up there. So this guy sort of suggested, well, why don't you just use the fireplace to heat your main floor and then just put the thermostat upstairs so that those bedrooms stay warm enough. Mind blowing. I don't know why I never thought of that before. So that's what we're doing, which is going to be amazing. And that way I can have the fireplace on for a lot more time during the day. But still, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to just overload the space with power and heat from these huge fireplaces that I'm looking at, because I didn't want it to be the case where it's on for 10 minutes and I'm like, woo, gotta open the window to let out some of this heat. Because then what's the point, right? So anyway, I got a good response back from them to say, the ones that I'm looking at would not overpower the space. They're going to be nice, toasty warm. And then, like I said, we'll probably not even need to have heat on the main floor. We'll still have the HVAC ducts because we'll want it for air conditioning and stuff like that. And just in general, if we don't want to put on the fireplace, we'll still need heat access. So we're still going to have the ducts, but it's easy enough to close the dampers. If you don't want heat or AC or whatever coming into a space, you can just close the dampers and then that air doesn't go into that room. So that's what we're going to do. And I think that is all I have for this week. So I am going full blown trying to get these designs done, my documentation done, so that hopefully by the time next week rolls around, I will be able to start having these conversations with trades based on all of my finalized documentation and get some of these pieces booked. Some of just the main trades is all I'm looking at for this week and next week. So again, structure, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, trying to get those booked in. And then following that, once I have all my finishes chosen for tiling and, cabinetry and all of that stuff, then I can sort of move into having those conversations with those particular trades and installers, because those aren't relevant yet until I have the structure sort of booked in and everything. So that's the plan. I hope you have a great Monday. It's April Fool's, so, enjoy a joke or two, whatever you do on April Fool's Day. And I'll see you next week.